Now, in January, this coming January, the International Olympic Committee is likely to announce a ban on men who identify as women from competing in female competitions. And if they do that, they will be the latest international sports governing body to do so, already joining the World Rugby, World Athletics, World Aquatics and World Boxing, who all have banned men identifying as women from competing in those sports codes. I'm joined on the programme this morning by Sorcha Nic Lochlainn, who's a spokesperson for the Countess. First of all, Sorcha, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How confident are you that in January the International Olympic Committee will announce this ban? Because they would be a significant sport governing body, wouldn't they?
Well, they're slightly different from a governing body in that they have never imposed a rule like this before. It's always been up to the individual sports. So it would be extremely significant because the trickle-down effect from the previous policies that they had meant that a lot of sports then loosened their guidelines and did allow in males, some requiring testosterone suppression and some not. We would be very hopeful that if and when the IOC do implement this policy, that those remaining sports would actually tighten up their rules again and protect female athletes, protect the category that it would be for female athletes only. Now, we do have some slight concerns about the wording that came out, was reported last week, in that we want all males, so those with DSDs or disorders of sexual development, as well as those who were born identifiably male and subsequently decided that they identified as women. So all males, really. And that can be done by sex screening and once-off screening, which has now been implemented in those sports, as you say, listed at the start there.
I know that back in 2021, and I know we spoke to you at the time, the Countess, you commissioned this first ever independent survey into attitudes to gender in Ireland, which revealed really widespread support amongst the Irish public for single-sex spaces, services and sports. Was it 55% of respondents at that time said that men who identify as women shouldn't be allowed to compete in women's sports at any level?
Indeed, yes, it was. And we would imagine it would be a lot higher now that more people are aware of the issues. I mean, if you remember at the time, it probably wasn't that well known and wasn't very well talked about. There was a lot of silence and fear around even saying things like that. So we imagine it's higher, and certainly the Sport Ireland survey reported that the vast majority of people involved in sport wanted a protected female category. So it does seem that this is a minority who object to protecting women and girls across their levels in sport.
Now, we're getting a lot of international reaction to this argument and this particular subject because it's been ongoing for a number of years now. What about Irish sporting bodies? Have any of the Irish sporting bodies come out and revised their policies?
Yeah, so Irish Rugby were the first ones to come out with a comprehensive policy, and that followed on from a really definitive World Rugby consultation where they looked at all of the evidence around this and concluded that it was simply unsafe for women to include any males in female rugby. And Irish Rugby took that up and followed on. Now, there was a bit of outcry at the time from various organisations and indeed from former Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, but nothing has come of that. There has been no legal challenge. Now, the other sporting bodies have been a bit slower to respond. So we don't have definitive policies in a lot of sports.
What about the Ladies Gaelic Football Association? Surely they must have something to say about it.
Well, what I was going to say was the definitive policies tend to be in the opposite direction, where they come out definitively and say that they will allow men and boys into their sport. And the LGFA are one of the probably most well-known and probably one of the most difficult to understand policies. So their policy allows boys over 12 to say that they're girls and play in the girls' teams, and men over 18 have to provide testosterone suppression to a level of 10. Now, what's interesting about the level of 10 is the LGFA said it was based on international science. That's a really outdated metric that was first used by the IOC, was later revised down to 5, and now has shown that actually any testosterone suppression doesn't really do anything to negate the male advantage. So we we would love to see the LGFA now revise this policy. It seems that they are intransigent with it. But with amalgamation, we hope that the other organisations will now see this move from the IOC as a signal that really they have to get their ship in order and go back to reality and the reasons why these categories exist in the first place.
Very good. So we will wait with bated breath to see what happens in January, to see if the International Olympic Council or Committee will ban men who identify as women from competing in female competitions. But you certainly hope that is the case. Sorcha, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme today. That is Sorcha Nic Lochlainn, sports spokeswoman for the Countess.